Are you staring down a giant right now? Maybe it's a diagnosis that stole your breath, a death that keeps you awake at night, or an insecurity that whispers you're not enough every time you look in the mirror. We all have giants. These colossal forces of fear and intimidation that loom larger than life, threatening to crush our courage and steal our future. In our world today, those giants don't wear bronze armor, but they are just as real, just as loud, and just as terrifying. They have the crushing weight of comparison culture, the anxiety of a collapsing economy, or the paralyzing doubt that says you don't have the talent or the resources to achieve your biggest dreams. We often feel overwhelmed, outmatched, and utterly unqualified to face these colossal threats. We look at our meager strength, our limited experience, and then we look at the size of the problem, and the only logical conclusion is surrender. We are conditioned to believe that victory belongs to the strongest, the wealthiest, or the most experienced. But what if that's a lie? What if the real victory belongs to the one who trusts in something bigger than themselves? Centuries ago, in a valley called Ela, there was a confrontation that redefined what true power looks like. It's a story we think we know, the classic tale of David and Goliath. But when we peel back the layers, it becomes a blueprint for facing every giant that stands in our modern path. Imagine the scene. Two armies, locked in a standoff. On one side, the armies of Israel, paralyzed by fear. On the other, the Philistines, radiating confidence because they had one secret weapon, Goliath. Goliath wasn't just big. He was a walk-in fortress. He stood nearly 10 feet tall. His bronze armor weighed more than many full-grown men, and the tip of his spear alone was heavier than a large sack of grain. Every morning and every evening, for 40 days, Goliath swaggered out into the valley. He didn't fight. He intimidated. He didn't need to swing his sword. His presence alone was enough to terrify an entire nation. He would boom across the valley, challenging Israel to send just one man to fight him. But no one moved. Saul, the king of Israel, the tallest, most qualified, most experienced warrior in the camp, hid in his tent shaking. Fear had silenced an army. This is exactly what our modern giants do. They don't need to defeat us physically. They just need to whisper down so loudly and so persistently that we become paralyzed and refuse to even try. But into this atmosphere of paralyzing fear steps a shepherd boy named David. David wasn't a warrior. He was the youngest of 8 brothers sent down to the front lines, simply to bring lunch. He wasn't equipped for battle. He was equipped for sheep. He was an outsider looking in at a problem everyone else had accepted as impossible. When David hears Goliath's taunts, he doesn't see an unbeatable monster. He sees an insult to his God. Now, pause here. This is the first critical lesson for facing your modern giants. Lesson 1. Perception changes everything. Where the trained soldiers saw danger, David saw opportunity. Where they saw an obstacle, he saw a platform. The difference wasn't physical strength. It was focus. The soldiers focused on the size of the problem. David focused on the size of his God. David's reaction wasn't rash arrogance. When he volunteered to fight, King Saul tried to outfit him with the standard military gear. Saul's own heavy, kingly armor. David tried it on, but it was useless. It restricted his movement, felt foreign, and it fundamentally changed who he was. David recognized a crucial truth. You can't win your unique battles wearing someone else's borrowed strategy or conforming to external expectations. So, he took the armor off. He said, "I cannot go with these, for I have not tested them." Lesson number 2. Don't let expectations define your methodology. David chose his own tools. This wasn't weakness. It was genius. A shepherd's sling was a devastating weapon capable of launching a projectile at over 100 miles per hour, making it an ancient sniper rifle. David was not unarmed. He was simply unconventionally armed, relying on the skills he had mastered in solitude. And this brings us to the most encouraging truth in the entire story. David's preparation wasn't public. It was private. When Saul questioned his experience, David recounted his resume. He hadn't been fighting men. He had been fighting lions and bears to protect his flock. He told Saul, "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." This was monumental. Every time David had quietly defended a helpless lamb, he was being prepared for this very public high-stakes moment. That season of obscurity you are in right now, that repetitive, difficult, thankless work, is not wasted time. That time you spent learning to manage stress, mastering a skill, praying consistently, or overcoming a small, hidden fear. God was using it as practice. God prepares you in the private wilderness before he gives you the public victory. The skills David needed to defeat Goliath were honed not in a military academy, but in the field, alone, trusting God with the sheep. When David finally walked into the valley to face Goliath, the contrast was stark. Goliath was massive, covered in shining metal. David was slight, wearing simple clothes, carrying a stick, a bag, and a sling. Goliath looked at David and was insulted, but he cried out, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" Goliath cursed David by his gods. But David's response was the spiritual turning point of the entire narrative. And it is the only way we can defeat our modern giants. David didn't boast about his aim, his stones, or his speed. He focused entirely on the source of his power. David declared, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel whom you have defied." This was the key. David understood that the battle wasn't about size or strength, it was about authority. Goliath was relying on hardware, David was relying on the living God. When David stepped forward, he wasn't relying on his own strength, he was acting under the delegated authority of the Lord Almighty. When you face your giant, be it addiction, anxiety, poverty, or chronic illness, you must refuse to fight it on its terms. If you fight debt with just a meager salary, you will lose. If you fight insecurity with just affirmations, you will eventually falter. You must step into the confrontation carrying the authority of God's promise over your life. You are not fighting in your name, you are fighting in His. The actual fight was anticlimactic. As Goliath lumbered forward, confident and slow, David ran toward him. He put one of the stones into his sling, swung it, and launched it. That single smooth stone hit Goliath precisely in the one exposed spot on his forehead. Goliath crashed to the ground, instantly defeated. The giant designed for war was felled by a simple stone thrown by an unconventional warrior. Relying on unconventional power, the immediate effect, fear vanished. When the Philistines saw their champion fall, they broke and ran. The paralyzed army of Israel immediately erupted into action, pursuing their fleeing enemy. The removal of the giant didn't just win a battle, it restored courage and mobilized an entire nation. And when you conquer your giant, it's not just a personal victory, it is a catalyst for renewal in the lives of those around you. Your courage gives others permission to face their own fears. So let's bring this back to the present. What is the Goliath you are facing right now? Is it the fear of failure that keeps you from starting that business? Is it the towering wall of grief that seems too high to climb? Is it the incessant voice of doubt that tells you your past defines your future? Remember the lessons of the Valley of Elah. First, stop focusing on the size of the giant, and start focusing on the size of your God. Your problem is big, but God is infinitely bigger. Second, don't try to wear Saul's armor. Don't rely on strategies or resources that feel unnatural, or inauthentic to who God created you to be. Use the unique skills, gifts, and experiences God has given you, even if they look simple to others. Your sling is whatever quiet, consistent talent or habit God has helped you master. Third, trust the preparation. The silent, unseen battles against the lions and bears in your life were not accidents. God was training you, strengthening your faith muscle, and preparing you for the moment the spotlight hit. Everything you have been through has equipped you for this fight. Finally, run towards the battle, not away from it. Don't fight defensively, fight proactively, declaring your trust in the name of the Lord Almighty. When you step out in faith, you shift the odds from impossible to inevitable. The story of David and Goliath isn't just about a shepherd who got lucky. It's a timeless promise that faith always trumps fear, that the unqualified often get the victory, and that the preparation you do in private always leads to the success you experience in public. You are equipped, you are prepared, and the size of your giant is nothing compared to the power of the name you carry into the fight. Go face your giant, not in your strength, but in his power. If this message encouraged you today, hit that like button, subscribe for more content that challenges you to live with courage, and share this video with someone else who is staring down a giant right now. Thank you for watching.